Oh, hi. It's Brian. A few minutes late today for Wine Wednesday Live, but thank you for joining me as we talk about Washington State wines today, and specifically the career and wines of Charles Smith. And all you need to do is say hello, give me a like, and you'll be in the drawing for a very nice prize. Today we've got another VIP wine experience from Baker Bird Winery in Augusta. Hello, Heidi. And a guided tour for two comes with that, as well as a fruit and cheese plate for two. And interesting wines down there. They're the home of bourbon barrel aged wine. They have 160 years of history. This winery actually survived the Civil War battle. Somebody actually took shelter in the cellar itself, which is historic and cool. Hello, Mary Beth and Acacia. Yeah, interesting day here. I'm a few minutes late because we had kind of a bizarre happening. We're on the third floor in our office building, and the fourth floor toilets kind of overflowed. So we had to kind of dodge in the hallway some of the leaks. So I wanted to wait a few minutes so I could get that smell kind of out of my nose before I decided to smell something better than that. Hello, Teresa. So Washington State wine. Compared to Napa, it's a little bit not as ancient, shall we say, but one of the pioneers of Washington State wine is Charles Smith. And I love this guy's career, so I thought I'd fill you in case you didn't know how cool this guy was. As you notice, the last few times I've done Wine Wednesday Live, I've talked about like pioneers and mavericks and really cool, amazing winemakers. Robert Mondavi, and then last week we talked about Dave Finney. And today, Charles Smith, the rock and roll winemaker. Looks a little bit like Sammy Hagar, doesn't he? So this guy, again, did things his own way, and I love that he's had so much success, basically flying by the seat of his pants. Smart guy, no doubt about it, but he came into wine kind of an interesting way, by way of rock and roll. Gail, hello. Sarah and Evelyn, thank you very much for watching. So he started off as a young man as a waiter. Acacia said, better hair than me. Hello, Debbie. And he looked at all the different jobs that were available in this particular restaurant. And he went and saw the people that were busting their hump in the back rooms doing dishes and bussing tables. And he thought, no, that's not for me. Then he looked at the waiters, and he got a job as a waiter, but he really thought the wine guy's job was the best. As Charles put it, he said, here's this guy who drinks the best wine, comes in late, leaves early. That's the job I want. So eventually he got that wine job at this particular restaurant and decided then, at a very young age, that he wanted a career in wine. Hello, Ray. And he followed somebody over to Europe and thought, you know what, I'm going to be a winemaker in Europe. I'm going to learn the trade. But they weren't all that excited to take on somebody from America who didn't speak, in this case, Danish. So he ended up actually managing a few rock bands. And that is what he did for a long time. And he learned how to market in a rock and roll way. And he put that knowledge to work when he came back to the United States in 1999, I believe. And he decided that he was going to buy a little wine shop and begin his wine career in America. And the wine shop was for sale for $5,000. And Charles Smith said, you got a deal. Shook hands, got the paperwork started, and said, okay, where am I going to find $5,000? So he scrounged up money, bought his wine shop, and started selling wine and learning more about wine. I mean, he learned a little bit in Europe about, wining and dining, the rock bands and clients. So he got a taste for really good wine. Now it was his turn to sell it, to purvey it. And in his travels, he met a French winemaker who said, you know what? You need to learn how to make your own wine. Follow me to Walla Walla. And Charles Smith did. And he learned winemaking on the job. And he became one of the 20 original winemakers in Walla Walla. And for a while, he struggled and was selling wines out of the back of his van, like a rock and roll guy selling CDs, for his band that he's managing. And he decided, well, the best way for people to remember this wine of mine is to come up with a catchy name and a cool label. So he made it black and white, and he called it K Syrah. K Syrah. Pretty memorable, right? And that was kind of the model for his wine company that he eventually would buy. So this is an example of some of the Charles Smith wine labels that you've probably seen in stores, and we'll get to that, why it's so prevalent in stores in a minute. But see, black and white, Kung Fu Girl, The Velvet Devil. These are catchy names. Vino Pinot Grigio, Boom Boom Syrah, K Syrah. These are memorable names, simple for people to understand, stark black and white labels, right? Okay, so he started making wines. He had a minor success in Washington, making like a couple $100,000 selling K Syrah, I think it was. Don't quote me on those numbers. But then he said, you know, I need to form my own company, and I need to stop selling wines out of a van. So he got some bankers together to get financing. He had no collateral. Again, this is the guy. And he wanted a loan to start Charles Smith Wines in 2006. And he wanted to focus on wines that were simple. Stuff you could drink right away that tastes like they're supposed to taste. You don't need to age them for 10 years. It's just wine, drink it, is a famous Charles Smith quote. So the banker said, well, what do you have for collateral? And Charles said, nothing, but you got to taste this wine. Taste my wines. So he set up a tasting for them. They tasted it. They loved it. And they said, tell you what, we'll give you a line of credit, $250,000 to get this thing off the ground, and you can have your wine, put up your wine as collateral. And Charles said, you got a deal? Next thing you know, Charles Smith Wines is born, and in 10 years, he sold Charles Smith Wines for $110 million. How cool is that? That's how you do it. That's how you sell wine like a rock and roller. But here's the thing, he's not resting on his laurels, he's still working. He is still the winemaker for these wines that you see in stores. And that's the difference. Constellation Brands knows how to put this wine out there. You see him on restaurant wine lists. You see him in grocery stores. Kroger's got him. Everybody's got Charles Smith Wines. And he's still the winemaker. Jen says hello, Terry and Acacia. And what did he do with all that money? Well, in addition to continuing to oversee the Charles Smith wine label, he also started something called Wines of Substance. And you've probably seen these in stores too. You see the black label with the white writing? So there's a 2018 Cabernet, Wines of Substance, and there's Chateau Smith Cabernet, 2018. Two Cabernets, both by Charles Smith. One is a newer company, one is his original company. So I thought, hey, why not do a little head-to-head thing and see which one of these Washington State wines tastes the best? What do you think? Now, Wines of Substance, I will admit, is highly rated. As a matter of fact, the very first Wine Wednesday that I did, when this whole COVID thing began last year, was this particular wine, the CS. And I thought, that's a really good wine. I like it. I rated it highly before. So why not bring it back a year later and compare it to the Chateau Smith Cabernet, also from Washington State. Walla Walla, to be exact. Acacia says, I have seen the one on the right at Kroger. Yes, you have. So this is kind of interesting. I thought it would be an interesting head-to-head because Cabernet's great. Washington State wines are great. Charles Smith makes these wines so you don't need to even, well, you don't need to aerate it. I'm going to aerate the CS a little bit because it's a little bit more robust, I believe, than the Chateau Smith. But we'll see in a minute here. And let's see which one's better. The CS is rated 93 points last time I checked. And it was only $15, which is great, right? And the Chateau Smith I got for 18, which is actually rated 90 points. So both pretty good wines. Which one will be the winner? Let's find out. So wine number one, we'll try the CS. CS for Cabernet Sauvignon and CS for Charles Smith. So let's take a look at the color as we do. Wine number one is the CS, and as I mentioned, I did the first Wine Wednesday video featuring this particular wine, and it's got a really nice color, This is a really good Cabernet, and um, this is the 2018. I had the 2017, I had the 2016, reviewed them both, and I loved them. And again, consistently good quality. And dark fruit, you've got cherry, you've got a little olive flavor or aroma. And that characteristic, and I talked about this on online when I reviewed the first CS I ever tried. It's got like this sort of sweet tobacco leaf aroma, which I just love. Really nice, and kind of a little graphite, like pencil lead. I talked about that last year too, and that's still in the 2018. So how does this one taste? Let's find out. This is really good wine. This has got black cherry and blackberry, really bold flavors. What is that in the middle? Right at the end, it's got this sort of a flinty character, just a little peppery finish, really dry. Nice tannins. You know, tannins we talk about as it's what you get when the juice touches the skin of the grapes and the stems. You also get a little bit of the tannin from the oak aging. It just gives a little structure. It balances the fruit and gives it a little more character. Nice dark fruit. That's a really good wine. And for the price, my goodness. If you get a chance to pick up a bottle of CS, if you haven't already done so, please do, because it is good. Okay, so how does that compare to the Chateau Smith, which is from the original Charles Smith wines? Let's take a look at this one. And it's going to be quite similar because, again, they're both Washington State wines. They're both harvested in for the 2018 vintage. And they're both made by the same guy. So what is the difference going to be? Sarah said beautiful color. Acacia said I'm headed to the grocery tomorrow. So this is like a battle. You can figure out which one you want to get. Okay, so the Chateau Smith from Charles Smith Wines, now belonging to Constellation Brands. Yeah, a different nose, definitely. This is more fruity. Let's see. This is this is a little earthier flavor or aroma. This is more like a drier smell, more like a French wine. It almost smells like. And he said that this is more like a dry Bordeaux type of wine. Well, let's see how it tastes. Wow. Okay, so these are way different, but I like them both. They're This is tough. I thought this was going to be easy. I thought for sure that I was going to like the CS better. Let's see. This has different fruit. This is kind of like more of a blueberry, and the other one was more of a cherry and blackberry. This is more blueberry, which is interesting, but it's got the whereas the CS started immediately with fruit, kind of exploded on your tongue. This has more of a softer fruit flavor going in. Still some there's still some blackberry in there too, but then it's more of an earthy finish, and it's not as much of a finish. So I guess based on that, interesting flavor, both really good. There's more complexity to the CS. But I gotta say, that's close. That's really close. So if you're looking for a reasonable Cabernet Sauvignon from Washington State, and you can't decide, you can't go wrong with either one. I think the CS is a little better, just based on the complexity of flavor, a little bit bolder at the start, and it's got a little bit of well, not a little bit, it's got a longer finish. The Chateau Smith, by comparison, again, plenty of flavor, not as much fruit, and it's got a little bit of a drier finish, and it's not as long. So I'd have to give it to the CS. But still, two very good wines, very well rated, very affordable. And best of all, you can just drink them right away. You don't need to lay them down. You know, in the old days of Napa and even Washington State, If you bought a Cabernet, you could not drink it the first year. You just couldn't. You'd have to age it for 10 years to smooth it out because those tannins were so strong to the point where you'd drink it and your teeth would be stained. That's changing, and wine is a much more accessible vehicle for dinner time conversation and taste than it used to be. And Charles Smith has taken that to the nth degree by making wines that are ready to drink right now. Hello, Natalie. Thanks for joining us. So once again, if you want to go and experience a wonderful winery, very historic, Baker Bird Winery down in Augusta, Georgia, Augusta, Kentucky, is the place to go. You can see a lot of history there. 160 years. They've got bourbon barreled aged wine. They have spirits. It's a historic tour, and it's worth the trip. It's a $52 prize, which not only includes the tour, but a couple of glasses, a wine and fruit plate for two, and all you need to do is give me a like and say hello. Hello, Heidi. She says she loves the first one too. Okay, so CS, not a knockout, but a decision today. And the judges have ruled that it is slightly better than the Chateau Smith, but still very good wines from Mr. Charles Smith. Once again, what a cool guy this is. The rock and roll winemaker from Walla Walla. That's Wine Wednesday Live. If you've got any suggestions for future programs, let me know, and I will pick a winner for that $52 VIP wine experience from Baker Bird Winery between now and 5 o'clock tomorrow. So check your Facebook. I'll contact you there if you're the winner. Elise said hello and adding these to my list. Well, that's nice. Donna says, sounds nice. And Heidi said, I love the first one too. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you next week on Wine Wednesday Live.